Another month, another batch of champions joining the Raid Shadow Legends universe. I am currently on the test server, guys. In today's video, we're gonna have a look at all of the new champions that will be added in the next update, most likely on Monday. Now, of course, the fusion is included in this. We have around 6 new champions, 1 epic, 1 rare, and a few legendaries. No mythicals this time around, guys. Let's start with the fusion. Let's have a quick look at her base stats, because that's something that we were actually not familiar with. If I can actually see her, she's void. I forgot about that part. Lady Noelle. I do like the design. I think they've done a pretty awesome job with that. Base stats don't look too bad. 20k HP, almost 21, 1.3k defense, 105 speed, and you start with 30 resistance, 20 accuracy. You're already familiar with the kit, right? With the A1, she has a chance to put block buffs, decreases the thermometer if they are under freeze. If Sir Nicholas is on the same team, you don't need accuracy on her. So that's basically kind of like the main combo. Plus, you have this A2, which will instantly target Sir Nicholas' Goodwill, which is the unkillable skill. With this one, removes sheep, she gives you healing, she cleanses, and of course, she can place increased speed on all of your team, which is actually a pretty nice touch, especially the heal and the increased speed. Let's just assume you're not going to use her necessarily only in arena, so you don't care so much about sheep. She will generate a good healing. Now, yes, I would have loved to see some thermometer in here, to be honest, just to kind of like make it a bit more interesting. Places an increased speed buff on all allies and boosts the thermometer by 20%. As easy as that. I feel like it would have been a much better choice, right? Because she's a void legendary. But either way, I still like the champion. Then, the main thing that is really nice on her is this revive skill right here. 3-turn cooldown AoE revive. The very first in the entire game, guys. And she has a chance to freeze all of the enemies. A lot of people are, well, she looks like she's meant to counter polymorph, but she's going to be a ship herself. You can build her with 0 accuracy, guys. You don't have to worry about her freezing or putting the block buffs if you want her to purely counter polymorph. Or you can build her on pinpoint. Or you can build her on feral, and you can play around a bit with the polymorph. Or you can give her the new relic, which has a chance to reflect back the polymorph. Only if you would have something like that. But probably in a few weeks, people will start getting those relics as well. The passive decreases the speed of enemies under freeze debuffs by 10%. When a ship debuff expires on an ally, fills their thermometer by 50. This is actually really impactful. And you have a speed aura for arena battles 30%. Let's move over to the next champion. As I mentioned, I will have a guide on her today, guys, so stay tuned for that. If I'm not mistaken, we have an Ogryn, or is it a Skinwalker? Let me just quickly check. Yes, it is a Skinwalker, not an Ogryn. Is it? No, it's not. It's an orc. I mean, if it's not X or Y, it must be the Z, right? So there we go. We have Mr. Bells, the Reckoner, right here. He's a HP-based champion. Pretty good stats, actually. 23.2k HP, 1.2k defense, 99 speed, which kind of like puts me off usually when they make the champion so damn slow. With A1, attacks an enemy, has a chance of placing a defense down for 2 turns, and will ignore 5% of the target's defense for each debuff on them. The more, the merrier, the more damage you're going to get from this champion. I haven't tested him just yet, so I'm not sure what sort of multipliers this champion has. Hopefully, good ones. Then, with the A2, attacks one enemy. Before attacking, steals all buffs from the target, will repeat the attack against all enemies if the initial target is under a leech debuff. I hate this. I hate that we are putting more conditions. Why not repeat the attack if it steals the buffs, right? Or something like that. Because right now we need to think about landing the leech as well before we're using this skill. And yeah, it's definitely not the most interesting thing. He doesn't ignore pretty much nothing. Still curious to see the multipliers. Then with the A3, attacks all enemies, has a chance to put block buffs and a leech debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Also fills this champion's thermometer by 5 for each debuff placed by this skill. The more enemies you're attacking, the better, because you're going to gain more thermometer. He is definitely kind of like a Hydra champion. Block buffs, leech, and of course, he can be pretty good maybe on the Chimera boss. That's something that we're going to have to basically test, but it's all about multipliers again, because if he's not bringing in good damage, it's pretty pointless to just bring in a champion like this just to land 3 debuffs, right? Or 2 debuffs, whatever. Then you have the passive, increases this champion's max HP by 5, stacking up to 50, and crit damage by 5, stacking up to 50. This looks very promising. And then you have an accuracy aura for all battles. This champion was teased in the What's Next in Raid video. He actually looks pretty badass. I love the design on him, definitely in the Christmas theme and stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think about this champion? Then I know we have the faction unity for Dark Elves, and we have another champion that I'm going to have to basically try and find the faction because I forgot it. So we have Zyklek. He looks pretty badass. Love the design on the champion. He really looks awesome. Attack-based champion, Force Affinity. The HP is pretty low on him, to be honest, at 14,000 for a legendary. With A1, attacks an enemy. Has a chance to steal a random buff from the target, and this effect cannot be resisted or blocked. With the A2, attacks one enemy. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. If the initial target survives, places an extra hit on all enemies. So this sounds pretty damn nice, actually. If you're going versus bosses, you're going to be able to just have an AoE attack as well. Now, of course, multipliers are everything. To be honest, most of the faction unity champions are pretty good, right? In terms of what damage they do, they don't tend to have trash multipliers. Then you have the A3. That's where all the faction ally unity stuff comes in play. Insectoid Feast. And this is on a 3-turn cooldown fully booked. Attacks one enemy 2 times. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 10% each time an enemy receives a debuff. The damage increase resets each time this skill is used. By the looks of it, it doesn't seem to really have a cap. So you could potentially land 10-20 debuffs on the Hydra clan boss and just go in and make a big boom with this skill. Potentially. Now, if you have one faction ally in the team, each time an enemy is killed by this skill, permanently increases this champion's attack by 30%, stacking up to 120. Now, that sounds actually pretty interesting for a PvP content, right? If you can kill them, you're going to increase your attack to like an insane amount. 2 faction allies, if the target was killed by this skill, resets the cooldown of this skill and fills this champion's turn meter by 50%, which means that you're going to be able to use it again. If you have 3 faction allies, has a 50% chance to attack an enemy with this skill whenever that enemy attempts to place a buff. Can occur once per skill. So think about it in the following way. You have Siphi buffing. Bang, he's using this skill. Then you have Arbiter buffing. Bang, he's using this skill. Then you have a different champion buffing. Bang, he's using this skill. Which sounds pretty damn nasty. The thing is, he doesn't ignore defense or anything from here. Let's check the passive, right? So, Swarm Conductor will ignore 12% of each target's defense if they have no buffs. So, there you go. We will ignore defense, but only if they have no buffs. So, if they're going to start buffing so we can use the A3, we're not going to ignore defense. Now, if we have one faction ally in the team, allies receive 15% less damage from enemies that have any buffs. Allies receive 30% less damage from enemies that have no buffs. This can be very nice versus PvE bosses. 30% damage reduction is pretty damn massive. Then you have 2 faction allies. When this champion or an ally removes or steals a buff from an enemy, this champion's next skill will deal 50% more damage. Keep in mind, he can steal a buff or remove a buff with the A1, right? And he doesn't require accuracy for it. Then, 3 faction allies at the start of each round places a block buffs debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be resisted. So, it won't be viable for the Hydra clan boss because it's only at the start of the round. For Arena, most likely you're going to hit into Stone Skin and the debuff won't be placed regardless, right? Overall, he doesn't look like a bad champion. I'm very curious to see how much damage he deals. It's all about multipliers. Once again, the story of my life. And then you have the passive. The aura, increases all ally speed in all battles by 19. And for Dark Elves, increases their accuracy by 60. Now, as I mentioned before in the past, guys, I'm really not sure what plans they have for the next update on Faction Wars, how important the faction unity champions will become. But as it is right now, the Dark Elves faction is just not that amazing, okay? Yes, we have some strong champions, but when we are talking about actual support champions, revivers, you only have good old Blind Seer, which, I mean, do I have to say anything? She's kind of trash, right? For Void Legendary Champion, sorry. Other than that, yeah, you have Mitrala, you have Lydia, you have Queen Eva, which is very strong, Ghostborn, which is nice, you have Astrolith. You have some good champions in here. The main thing that they're really lacking is having some very good support. Now, maybe the next mythical will be some amazing support champion. Who knows, right? Then we have another champion. I'm going to have to quickly browse through the factions. It might be a high elf champion, if I am not mistaken. Yes, and there we go. We have High Keeper Prisma, support champion. Love the blue shield, the design. It looks so freaking awesome. Love the color, right? It is amazing. So, pretty good base stats. Spirit Affinity, 103 base speed. With A1, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a chance to place a stun. After attacking, transfers all debuffs from the ally with the most debuffs to the target. Will not transfer crowd control debuffs. With the A2, attacks one enemy before attacking, removes all buffs from the target. The ally with the highest crit damage will team up and join the attack. The ally joining the attack will use their default skill and ignore 35% of the target's defense. If the enemy is killed by the ally joining the attack, activates an instant turn effect on that ally. This sounds really, really damn strong. Just imagine you're going in arena versus a squishier target. Your damage dealer will kill that target with the A1, and then is instantly going to gain a turn, right? I feel like it's definitely going to be a very, very strong skill, not only for PvP, but for PvE as well. Definitely really, really nice. And this should 100% work in Hydra. If I decapitate a head, means that I'm killing it because it's not there. That's what Plarium said. They had to change all the ally attack and everything else because it creates problems on the server. When you're actually attacking the Hydra head, it's not there anymore. So once it's decapitated, it's just not there anymore. It's not a real target. Funny enough, nothing actually works like that, you know? So excuses over excuses. Either way, I haven't forgot that, Plarium, and I'm not forgiving you for it. With the A3, Revival Radiance. On a 4-turn cooldown, revives a dead ally with 75% HP and turn meter, places an increased attack and a perfect veil buff on that ally for 2 turns. No, this needs to be on a 3-turn cooldown. 3-turn cooldown. No increased speed, no increased turn meter on any of the skills. This needs to be on a 3-turn cooldown for this champion to actually mean something in terms of a support champion. Look at Elva, look at all of these champions that have shorter revives, right? Much, much better. So, unfortunately, this puts me a bit off. Yes, 4-turn cooldown. I mean, they have champions now with 3-turn cooldown AoE revive. Like, come on, Plarium. Then you have the passive. At the start of this champion's turn, has a 40% chance to remove any block debuffs buff from each enemy and replace them with block buffs. That's actually pretty nice. Also has a chance to remove any buff positively affecting stats and replace them with their mirror debuff equivalent, such as increase attack, decrease attack, etc. And this seems to be working for pretty much all of the buffs that have a negative, not just the ones described in here. So this is a very nice passive because it's at the start of this champion's turn. A very high chance to become polymorphed, of course, but other than that, definitely pretty interesting. Shame that revive is not on a 3-turn cooldown, would make this champion so much better. And then you have a defense aura for all battles. Not only that would be much better for PvP, but it would be much better in the Chimera as well as a support champion, right? Then I think that's pretty much all in terms of legendaries. So we're gonna have an epic, and then we're going to have a rare champion. I think the epic was from the Sylvan Watcher, if I'm not mistaken, and that is the Wysteri Vinegard. Wysteri Vinegard. I almost said wine there for whatever reason. Yes, I would love a glass of wine right now. Stats are not too bad actually for an epic champion. 16k HP, better than the legendary, you know, the faction unity. Attacks an enemy 2 times. Each hit has a chance to place a weaken debuff on the target for 2 turns. Then attacks one enemy, will ignore increased defense and strengthen buffs, as well as 20% of the target's defense. If this attack kills an enemy, increases the duration of all buffs on this champion by 1 turn. on a 3-turn cooldown. This actually seems like a very nice skill for faction wars and different areas in the Curse City where we can use champions from this faction. Then you have the A3, which again, I'm a fan of. Places an increased attack and an increased crit damage buff on this champion for 3 turns, then grants an extra turn. Honestly, I think this is going to be an awesome epic damage dealer, especially for faction wars, especially for secret rooms, especially for the Curse City. Not necessarily an OP champion for arena or anything like that, but it seems like a pretty solid one. Then the passive increases this champion's attack by 10% for each enemy with 50% HP or less, stacking up to 50. There you go. So this is the epic champion, guys. Definitely not bad. Now, if you're asking me about the rare champion, guys, my God, that's gonna be a tricky one because I really don't remember the faction. So I'm gonna have to go over to the index and quickly find that rare champion just to show you what the champion will bring. Okay, it was a Shadowkin. I was just blind. Again, not bad stats. 16k HP, more than the faction unity legendary. He's a defense-based champion though, so we have a pretty low defense at 1.2k, more or less. And in terms of skills, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a chance to steal 5% of the target's turn meter. This can potentially be helpful progression-wise for the Fire Knight. So if you are a new player and you don't have enough resources to go for the fusion, and you can cash in on a rare and an epic, I think it might be helpful. With the A2, attacks all enemies. Before attacking, places an increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also has a chance to decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 15%. Once again, this can be a pretty decent skill too. Increase accuracy and turn meter manipulation. With the A3, removes 1 random buff from each enemy. Not bad at all. And then places a decreased speed debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Now, he's a rare champion. He doesn't have she doesn't have a 100% chance to land the debuffs, but 75% chance. So honestly, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you to invest in this rare champion. I don't think it's that amazing whatsoever. Now, if you're taking this character to level 40 or level 50, and then later on you're going to use it as a chicken just to help you out maybe a bit in faction wars and different areas, absolutely not a bad thing whatsoever, right? That's pretty much all in terms of new champions coming to Raid Shadow Legends with this update. No other things announced in terms of QOL changes or anything like that, except the new champions and the fusion, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of these new champions? Are you a fan of any of them? Appreciate all of you guys watching, and keep an eye for the fusion video. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.